Hey, everybody, I am recording. Thank you for joining our 48th professional learning session after school, or you might be watching this as a recording during your lunch while you're eating your delicious peanut butter and jelly sandwich or other. We're excited today to have Chelsea Moyer lead us in an important discussion about artificial intelligence in education. Chelsea is going to give us some thoughts on things that we should consider when using AI and some kind of governing policies, as well as some good tools and ideas. So, Chelsea, thanks for being on here today.
Yeah,
And I think this is an important conversation that we're going to have to keep having.
for sure. Well, I guess that's a good point to start out with. I am by no means an expert. Kelly and I have both done a little bit of dabbling and some playing with this, and my whole goal today is just to expose you to a couple of different tools that I really like. But just as Kelly mentioned, this is going to change the way we teach. It's going to change the way our kids learn. It's definitely going to change a lot, especially in the tech landscape and the way we manage that in schools. So kind of our goal today is to take a look at two different tools. We're going to look at ChatGPT, which I would say is probably the most popular one that we've heard of. And then we're going to look at Google's version, which is Google Bard. You may have heard that in the news. It's relatively new. And we're just going to go through some different examples of things you can do to help you as a teacher. Before we get started, I think it's important to note that right now, this is blocked for students. So the only students in the district that have access to this are taking CCP classes. Some of our teachers that are teaching CCP classes could attest to this, but the colleges are actually requiring artificial intelligence in their classes. They are kind of diving in head first and making sure students know how to use this. So if you have a student in your class that is also taking a CCP class, they will have access to this. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you teach middle school and below, that won't be a concern for you. But I think we want to keep that in mind because right now students don't have access, and it's more of like a technical legal piece with all of these different laws that we have to abide by. So a lot of you are familiar with FERPA. We have something called SIPA and something called COPA, along with all the user agreements that go with these, and that's kind of something I'm sifting through on the back end. But the way things stand right now, students have to be 13 or older to use this, and in addition to being 13 or older, they have to have parental permission. So this is so new. We're kind of just going through the guidance from some of our organizations that help us develop policy. So we're going to hang tight on students. We want to make sure teachers have a good understanding before we go down the road too far with students. So I'm going to share my screen here with you. Let's go. All right, and hopefully, Kelly, you can let me know. This right here, I have ChatGPT open. I opened this earlier today, and I was afraid to close it because ChatGPT has a certain number of spaces open. Are we good, Kelly? You can see it?
Yeah, I can see everything.
Perfect.
It's a little small, so as you talk and tell us what you're talking about and stuff, that help.
Yeah, let me see if I zoom in, if that helps at all. Does that make it a little bit bigger so you can see
Yes,
a
it
little
does.
better?
That's perfect.
Okay,
That's
cool.
actually perfect. Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna open a new tab just to kind of show you. If you've never been to ChatGPT before, I just usually just type in ChatGPT in my Google URL, and it will search it here, and I just click on the link. And that's what got me over here to this one. Now, I'm already signed in. If you've never used this before, it'll ask you, like either log in or sign up, and there's a real nice sign in with Google. You can connect your Google account so you don't have to remember any more passwords. Go ahead and use that route, and then you should get in. Now, it's not always that fluid to get in because, like I said, there's only a certain number of spaces open in ChatGPT at any given time. So I have no idea what that number is, but like probably 1 o'clock today, I tried to use it. Knowing that ahead of time, I wanted to make sure I got signed in and had a seat ready to roll. So occasionally, you or your students or whoever's using it will run into that whole, it kind of acts like it's not working, but it just means that there's no availability at the time. So this is what ChatGPT looks like. The other version is Google Bard. So They look very similar. If you want to navigate to Google Bard, this is one I have not had any problems getting into Google Bard. I don't know that they have the same quota piece that ChatGPT has, but it's just bard.google.com. You can also just search for Google Bard and it will be the first one that's open. Again, students will not have access to this one. It's actually turned off completely, so it will not load anything for them. When you're looking at both interfaces, they're very similar. Along the left side here, it will show you different, like, I don't know exactly what they call these, but different searches that you put into the prompts. So again, on ChatGPT, they're right down here on the left, and then you enter your text along the bottom. So I planned ahead and had some things ready to roll to put into the I guess I don't know what you call this, into the interface. On the left side here, you can see like this is one, I think I was working with the 6th grade team, just kind of showing them some cool stuff. It saves everything you're doing. So you can see here what I entered and then what ChatGPT spit back out. This was one I was kind of practicing my prompts earlier today, and I can go back and look through these at any time. So I'm going to start a new chat up here. And the first example I want to show you is ChatGPT can actually generate a list of, it can do a lot of things. So these are just some examples, but one that I wanted to highlight is vocabulary. We have a huge literacy initiative going across the entire district, and vocabulary, no matter what your content area is incredibly important. So I know I just used the middle school as an example. They're reading a book called Schooled. It's their One School, One Book initiative. So if I ask ChatGPT to generate a list of vocabulary words. Okay, you're also going to see my stage fright when I'm typing. For the book Schooled by Gordon Corman. Notice how like I'm not putting anything in proper cases, and ChatGPT is going to come right back and spit out all of these vocabulary words. So the words in bold, and then it tells you obviously the definition behind it. Let me grab this prompt, and I'm just going to copy it and paste it over here into Bard, and we will get a very, very similar response. I do like that Bard actually breaks it up between the chapters. That's very education friendly. Kelly, feel free to pop in. I tend to gravitate more toward ChatGPT than Bard, and that's just personal preference. I think it's just kind of got a slight edge to Bard. The responses are a little bit more accurate and what I'm looking for, versus sometimes when I use the Bard one, it's good, but ChatGPT just has a slightly better answer.
Yeah, very similar. I feel Bard being developed by a search engine, I always feel like I get search engine-like results. And I feel Bard is more of a conversation.
Yeah, that's a really good way. There's almost like that human piece to the ChatGPT. The next one I want to show you, I went in and grabbed the 3rd grade reading test. There's always like a little writing prompt at the end where it asks the kids to write I think it's usually 5-paragraph response. Just to show you, like maybe if you're asking kids to write an essay or some sort of response, how crazy good these tools are at developing a response. So keep in mind, this comes from a 3rd grade test. Write a multi-paragraph response that explains why birds are different from other animals. Okay, so I just copied this off of a PDF. I'll actually, can you guys see my little planning document here where I've got the PDF of the writing prompt?
Yes.
Okay, so I literally took a screenshot of that from like a PDF that ODE had released. So think about this like maybe you put a prompt out there in Google Classroom, or you have something you typed up. The kids can literally take this, and I just pasted it into ChatGPT, and I'm going to hit enter. It's going to think for a split.
You pasted the image in?
Nope, I'm sorry. I took a screenshot of that image just to put in my planning document for today. But I actually pulled the PDF and just copied the text off the PDF. So I'm just going to zoom out for a quick second here. You can see that it grabbed everything, and it numbered the paragraphs, and it included one piece said, be sure to include a conclusion. So like it made it very obvious that there was a conclusion. Now, just quickly glancing at this is probably not something, okay, their delicate nature and distinct requirements. That doesn't sound like a third grader. So maybe you get something out of ChatGPT and it does not fit the grade level that you teach, or maybe even the reading level that your students are at. So I'm going to say, rewrite this at a third grade level. And so here we go. It's completely rephrased it and written it in a more simple way. Now, when I did the BARD one earlier, it did not number. Let me see if I have this still pasted. When it generated the essay, it didn't say paragraph 1, paragraph 2. It was written in a way that if you wanted to, if you were using this in a situation where you just needed to copy and paste, you absolutely could. So here it's written like a narrative, not like where it's going to number the paragraphs. So it's crazy cool how fast it does this. Something else you might consider using this for is if you need to have a difficult conversation with maybe a parent or maybe a student about a behavior, you can generate emails, letters, talking points from here. So let's say you had a student that maybe failed a test and we want to notify the parents. So draft a letter to a parent of a student that failed a test. Now, I'm not suggesting you use ChatGPT and like literally copy and paste this into an email. Obviously, some things we still want to have phone conversations or in-person conversations with. But this is just a great way to read how someone else might say it, and kind of help build your talking points to make it maybe a little bit nicer. Because they start out, the first paragraph, it's building that connection. They go into maybe the not so easy stuff, and then they offer some help. The other thing I like to point out with this example here, if you notice when I was typing in my prompt, I did not include anybody's names, no grades, no personal information. It's really, really important that we don't include personal information in anything that we type, because the algorithms are constantly learning from what we type. And it's just, we are not able to provide that kind of student information there. So it can't be student names, definitely not grades. I think this is a great way to differentiate for your students, but you can't put in here that, Susie Smith is on an IEP for whatever. You can't include that kind of information. You have to keep it more general. And I like that it spits out the brackets. So you would just go in and anywhere you see a bracket, for sure that you need to customize what's in there. Okay, what else? Some other examples. And Kelly, feel free to jump in if you have anything to add.
Yeah, Chelsea, it's interesting that you use that exact, like a state testing writing piece. I'm working with a young lady in Redskin Academy, getting ready to take her in, of course, exam in writing. And I gave her my feedback on her writing, but I actually copied and pasted her response into ChatGPT and asked it to give me 3 points that just to see how close I was. And I'm going to share that with her on Thursday. And so
that's really cool.
I vet it, because I'm the teacher with the experience, but it came up with things that I didn't think about. And I think when I use ChatGPT, I tell ChatGPT what I want it to pretend to be, like an expert in what area. I tell it what action I want it to do. And then I tell it what parameters, like, 3 or 5 or, grade level or something like that. And I do like it. It is very helpful, but I love your comment about that's not our final outcome. That's just a start. It gives us ideas on what we might say to a parent. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I like how you pointed out, you can give it as many parameters as you want. A lot of the examples I've given you so far are just real basic, like, here's what we want you to create. I kind of have one prepared maybe you are asked to write a recommendation letter for a student, a colleague, anybody. That takes a lot of time to, generate that. So one of the prompts I came up with, write a recommendation letter for a student entering college. You could customize that: college, workforce, skilled trades, anything. And then I put, be sure to highlight the student's work ethic and creativity. So I kind of gave it it needs to include these specific pieces. And again, spits it out incredibly fast. And you would just go back, oops, too far. It even goes into the letter format. That was one thing. I know I learned that in high school, but don't use it as often. So I, tend to forget those pieces. It tells you exactly how to complete the letter in the right format. So yeah, include as many specifications as you want.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll read it and I'll be like, I'll just type in, do it again, better.
Mm-hmm.
Do
And
it again, shorter,
And if you need to, like, the vocabulary word example, if you need to write a sentence including those words and it didn't do it the first time, tell it specifically which words you want it to include. I believe you can also tell it which lexile level to write the piece for. Another thing you might do is, let's say I use Romeo and Juliet because that's kind of an easy example. Summarize Romeo and Juliet at a 5th grade. I hope I spelled that right.
It's kind of small, so you're off the hook.
Whew, thank goodness. Okay, so maybe you're teaching Romeo and Juliet in a high school level course, but you have a struggling reader that's only reading at a 5th grade level. You're probably not assessing their reading ability. You're probably assessing something more along the lines of comprehension or applying what they've learned. So maybe summarizing something would be appropriate to make that text accessible to that student at a lower level. This is just a real short one. So like Kelly was saying, we could include more parameters. Maybe you just want a certain act summarized in a little bit more detail. Then you can just take this and use it with your students. Another one, this is great for lesson plans. So, Tammy, this is perfect for you because my example was a biology lesson.
Perfect.
I can generate a list of activities for a high school biology lesson. Lesson about plant and animal cells. I hope that's still a biology thing that you guys are doing.
I believe it is.
I know I think it's for sure like a middle school science. We're going to go with a little advanced.
Yes.
So here, can you guys read that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's giving you all these different activities that you could use to teach at any lesson. You can put anything in here. You can also rephrase it. I put activities. Write a lesson plan for a plant and animal cells. Oops, maybe not a high school. So if you ask it for a specific lesson plan, let me get down here past all these responses. It gives you like your objectives, your materials, and all of your step-by-step pieces. Now, you may not necessarily go for all of this stuff, but like Kelly was saying, it's a great way to start and just get some fresh ideas.
Yeah. And I know I think you told me Chat GPT is dated to a certain year. Is that right?
Yeah. So Chat GPT, the free version. So let me go all the way up here. I'm using just the default, the free version. So there's free Chat GPT and then there's paid Chat GPT. We certainly don't want anybody going out and spending money on paid products because I think the free versions of these are going to become more and more powerful. But the free version, the last time it was filled with information was September of 2021, last I knew. So if you asked it something about a current event that happened last week, it's not going to be in there. From what I've heard, and I don't know how accurate this is, that they're going to be feeding the paid version, the newer stuff.
Yeah,
but I think for us just getting started, as long as we know that, it should be okay. But that's really good to know. And I think once we get to the point where we're ready to expand this to students, I think that's going to be important for them to know as well, especially, if you're writing a paper about, gosh, anything, and you want to have some like variety in your resources, you're going to be really limited to a certain date. And the reason that they do that, or the reason it is that way, is it takes so much to build the backbone of this thing, like pumping it with the information up to September of 2021. That's a lot of work. Keeping up with information as it comes out, that's a huge hurdle for them to navigate.
Yeah. And so when you're doing some creative writing prompts to get yourself started on something, you can ask ChatGPT to write in certain styles, like, write, 4 stanzas as Dr. Seuss on, a biology cell or something like that. And it'll actually compose it. But what I was thinking of when Chelsea was doing the lesson plan example, and again, these are just things to get us started. If you know a certain concept that you're kind of shy about starting, maybe it's project-based learning or some other educational concept, you can ask ChatGPT to take a current lesson plan that you have and offer suggestions or make adaptations to it and things like that. It doesn't mean they're all good. It doesn't mean you would even follow all of them, but it really gets my brain. I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. And I always tell it how much time I have, and it comes up with it kind of understands time a little bit. It's really fascinating.
It is. It's crazy smart.
Yeah.
So my big takeaways, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a quick second. The big things I want to make sure everybody understands is, one, we want you to play with this. We want you to go out and explore. And I think it's really, really important for all of our teachers to become comfortable with this. We have no idea what the outcome is going to be, but now that artificial intelligence is here, it's not going away. And I think we need to let it in as much as we can. They're saying this is the next calculator, and I use my calculator every day. So please go out there and explore, but also keep in the back of your mind that we kind of have that fine line between just kind of throwing whatever we want out there, but we also do have to make sure we're keeping our students and our data here safe. So as long as you're just using like generic, a student, a family, a teacher, that kind of stuff, without putting specific names, and we don't obviously want to put grades or addresses, anything like that in there, you have nothing to worry about. The other piece to keep in mind is Google and Google Classroom they're working really hard to add things to Google Classroom to help us with AI and like leverage that in a way that makes it beneficial for schools. So if you're familiar with Google Classroom, they have those originality reports that are in there, especially if you have your students completing any writing assignments. Right now, the originality reports do not do a great job picking up on when something was written with AI. So just because we have it blocked here right now for kids at school, they're using it. At home, they have accounts with their home emails. It's happening. So I think that's just another reason that it's super important for us to build connections with our kids and really know them and their style. And you can tell when a student's writing something and you're like, that doesn't sound like so-and-so. It's just, there's no replacement for you and your gut instinct and what you know about your students. So keep those things in mind. And as always, Kelly and I are planning to do a lot more with artificial intelligence. There's so much out here. We just focused mainly on the text piece, like the writing part of ChatGPT. There's art and video, and there's all kinds of different artificial intelligence mediums out there that we will all have to kind of wrap our minds around.
Yeah. Well, Chelsea, I do want you to have the last word, but I have a couple of things to say. So you're going to have to
No, I think I'm good.
Jump back on. I have a friend in another state who's working on district policy for artificial intelligence in there. And, I think that's okay. I think that's good and stuff. But, I think cheating is cheating. And so I think a teacher can identify when a student's not doing their work. So I don't know how much policy and things we have to really include. But Chelsea and I are really focused right now on the educator. And so I remember when I started teaching in 91, a pocket spell checker came out. And another teacher thought it was insane and wrong that I had a spell checker in my pocket that I could type words into. They thought I should just know how to do it. And of course, there's scientific calculators and all those sort of things. And so the kids that we're teaching are absolutely going to have access to artificial intelligence. And there probably isn't a day that goes by that you as a teacher or Chelsea and I in our position, we don't get some solicitation via email for a tool for teachers using AI. And so that's an area that's just going to grow. When Google Forms came out, a lot of teachers were concerned about kids cheating, but the good part of it was it reduced a lot of like insane clerical work for teachers. Like I graded way too many multiple choice quizzes and things like that. I don't have to do that anymore. And I think there's really some really good ways for educators to use AI. Chelsea really outlined a few. And then as far as like worrying about what will go wrong with it, I think we're smart people and we'll take good care of that as it comes along, and we'll learn and grow. I think kids also, I think they learn from using AI, and I think it gives them considerations that they wouldn't use. Sometimes when a kid copies something, they learn a new word. So there are some positivities to that. So, anyways, that was really well done, Chelsea. I just wanted to make those little comments.
Yeah, thanks. And we feel like this is super new, but we've had little bits and pieces of it for a long time. The most popular one is, think about in your Gmail. When someone sends you an email, Google pops up and it gives you like 2 or 3 choices of possible short little phrases or a one sentence that you can respond with. That was really, to me, the first time that artificial intelligence started popping up. So little bits and pieces of it are built into tools that we're already using. It's just the full-blown versions like ChatGPT and Google Bard have unlocked a lot more potential that we'll eventually figure out how to navigate.
Good point. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and be more later.
Awesome.
Great topic.
Guys.
Thank you.